So before we start today's video, I just want to give a massive thank you to all 12,000 of you insane people who have subscribed to our channel. It's a huge milestone, and from the bottom of my heart, sincerely, humbly, thank you so much. Honestly, this dream that I've got of becoming a full-time motorcycle journalist is becoming more and more of a reality every single day. The channel is growing, it's accelerating. The positive message that we have around bikes is getting a further reach around the globe, and it's all thanks to you lot. You lot are awesome. Thank you ever so much again. I love you. Let's get into the video. Hey, how we doing, everyone? Welcome back. So today we're going to be taking another look at the subreddit motorcycles, and we like to do this every once in a while because I find there's a lot of really good questions on there that a lot of people might have when they're getting into motorcycles, because let's be honest, bikes can be quite, not elitist, but it's almost like you have to be an enthusiast to understand what's going on half the time. And so any way that I can help answer some of the questions that people might have around bikes, well, Reddit is a good place to look. So let's take a look at what's been going on over there, shall we? Brap! I love that. Alright, so how does everyone keep buying new motorcycles? Maybe it's a US thing, but I keep seeing posts on Reddit about people buying new bikes, how long to break in, and what to buy, etc. One guy completely redecorated the garage big enough for 2 cars, while his new bikes, plural, were in the shop for maintenance. Okay. Do those people just have ridiculous amounts of money, or are bikes in the US ridiculously cheap compared to, in my case, Europe? I don't know. I don't think it's a US thing. Especially during the pandemic and what have you, I think there was a lot of people going around buying new motorcycles where they had spare cash, and where governments were just giving cash away and people didn't really know what to do with said cash. I mean, you could do something like move house or buy a new car, buy a new motorcycle. Things like that, I find, are what people tended to do during the pandemic. But then again, right now is a little bit different, because where we've got interest rates that are going through the roof, I suppose, well, you expect the motorcycle industry to slow down. And that's kind of what we discovered recently in a video that I recorded about how the motorcycle market is doing right now, the new motorcycle market. The used market is something else entirely, but the new market has slowed down significantly since 2021, 2022. But it's funny, isn't it? Because I have bought new bikes. My wife has bought her Ninja 125 from new. I bought my ZH2 from new, and there's a reason. Well, I was actually originally looking at a used ZH2, but the reason why I went new is because at the time the interest rates for PCP contracts from new for ZH2 were better than buying them used. So, you know, I saved myself. To be fair, I think I paid just a little bit more money every month, but I get a brand new bike and 2 years of manufacturer warranty. These days it's 4 years now from Kawasaki. I don't know if that's a worldwide thing or just a UK or European thing, but yeah, it just gives you a little bit of peace of mind, and the fact you don't have to put it through an MOT in 3 years. In fact, the ZH2 is due for its first MOT this year in August, I believe. So there are some reasons to buy new as opposed to used, especially when it comes to more expensive bikes. Sometimes finance deals on used bikes is actually more expensive than just going new. So I think that's probably a big reason why. I mean, even today, I bet you that PCP contracts are probably better right now than buying used. If it's, say, for example, a motorcycle that might be 1 or 2 years old, and it might have gone down in value maybe, I don't know, £1,000 or £3,000 maybe, you're still going to be paying through the nose in interest at the moment. So I think that's probably why. My bike was stolen last night, Kawasaki Z400. That's really sad, man. I really like these bikes. I mean, I've ridden one myself, and go ahead and check out our ride review of this bike. I honestly think it's quite an underrated motorcycle. It's got loads of torque, buckets of torque, and it's an extremely lightweight bike. Really good. Alright, so I suppose this begs the question then. What do you do in this situation? How do you stop thieves from stealing your motorcycle? Well, more often than not, it's going to be opportunistic thieves that will come along, they'll just walk by, and they'll notice that there's no security, there's no locks or anything like that, keeping the bike where it is, and they'll just walk it away. So really, you can just about do anything You know, just a chain around the rear wheel, lock your steering, things like that. Make sure it's anchored. And if you're going to a town or city or visiting somewhere, make sure that wherever you go, there is somewhere that you can anchor the bike to. And that's honestly the best way. Otherwise, it will take a pro to get through some of these locks and some of these chains. They need some serious equipment to get through it. They need planning and what have you. And if you have the steering locked as well, I mean, they'd have to drill through the lock, drill through the ignition. I don't even know if that would unlock the steering. And if they did that, I have no idea. I'm not a thief. But more often than not, it's just those opportunistic thieves. So as long as you can just make it more difficult than what it's worth for them, your bike should be pretty much safe. And always try and keep the bike close by to wherever you are so you can hear if someone is trying to steal it. I know that's not always practical, but it's just something to keep in mind, all right? All right, rider crashed in front of me. Let's take a look. Filtering. Yep, this happens. You've got to be so careful when you're filtering. Yeah. People don't look. They will take an opportunity straight away without looking in their mirrors, and they will not expect you to be doing this. So my advice in this situation is if you're going to filter slower, not faster. I know on a big highway, big freeway like this, it can be really tempting to just bomb it down there. Give yourself plenty of time. So just in case this happens, well, you've got a little bit of time to react. Also, this is where things like loud exhaust might come into play and might come in quite handy. If they can hear you, well, that's something else that you can do. Also, if it's something like this where there's loads of traffic and things like that, don't be afraid to honk your horn every once in a while. As you're going along, honk your horn so drivers can hear. And obviously when someone honks their horn, people tend to look in that direction, don't they? So it should encourage drivers to look around them to try and find out where those honks are coming from. So just honk your horn every once in a while when you're going down there. No one will mind, don't worry. Or if you've got a loud exhaust, just give it a bit of a rev so everyone else can hear it. Need bike advice. I'm looking at this 2021 Kawasaki Z650. It has around 9,500 miles. Mods include a full Yoshimura exhaust, new painted clutch cover, new painted plastics. Issues include potentially a bad battery or electrical. The guy is saying it's just an old battery. Owner stated never dropped. Looking for advice. So this is a 2021 motorcycle, 3 years old, coming on 4 years old. It probably does need a new battery at this point. I've literally just bought one for my ZH2, so that is kind of like for one of those lead acid batteries. That's pretty much the going kind of age for them before they start to really lose their cranking amps and things like that. So you could always just replace it with a lithium battery. They're quite cheap these days. The one that I got for my ZH2, I think, was about 100 quid. Not bad, and it should last for well over 3,000 charging cycles, which, you know, is a lot. That's what I would do. Potentially, yeah, that's the only issue. I mean, painted clutch cover. Well, I think they're lying to you there because that's not the clutch cover. The clutch cover's on the other side. So you can see there's the starter motor. And this here is probably the alternator. When I say the alternator, the stator. That's probably where that is. So, I mean, it looks alright. It looks in fairly good nick. So the places to look if it's been dropped are actually here. See where the frame kind of sticks out a little bit? Because that's where you'd usually put things like frame sliders. So check at the bottom of those on both sides, and then you'll be able to tell if it's been dropped or not. The fact that it's had the exhaust replaced as well might indicate that it's been dropped. But having said that, these 650 Ninjas and Zs, they have the exhaust underneath the engine, nice and tucked away, so that might not be a great indicator. But if there's any marks on the fairing, marks on the tank, things like that, then that's a dead giveaway. And you'd see the markings even if it was painted over. Yeah, have you asked why this person has painted this bike? Seems like a lot of effort to go for nothing, if you know what I mean. So issues include potentially a bad battery or electrical. I mean, ask them. Ask them what the issues are, like what the symptoms are of this bike when you try cranking it or what have you. But it probably is just a bad battery or maybe even a fuse. This is a fairly new bike, so it won't be any issues with electrics, not at this age, unless the electrics have been messed around with. So that's something else to keep in mind. But yeah, it looks like a sweet bike. I didn't have one of these specifically, but I had an ER6 back in the day, and it has pretty much the exact same engine as 650cc or 649cc parallel twin. So really good bikes. I really enjoyed mine. So I think it's probably worth it. Although you haven't really mentioned how much it's going for. But 9,500 miles or something like this is nothing. These bikes will go on forever. Honestly, these bikes should run you well over 50,000 miles, 60, 70,000 miles. They're a tried and true engine. They've been put through their paces. Kawasaki have been running them in their bikes for a long time, best part of 20 years now, 25 years. So yeah, you won't have any problems with this bike as far as I'm aware, unless even if it has been dropped, not a big deal. All right, people drop bikes all the time. Don't worry about it. Paint, aftermarket paint I don't think is really necessary on a bike like this, but personal choices and all that, I suppose. One thing to make sure is that exhaust is legal as well, because you might get caught out by that. But no, it looks alright. I'd buy this bike. Oh look, has it got an aftermarket rear sprocket? You see that? Looks like an aftermarket rear sprocket to me. Oh, I can't zoom into this image, but that sprocket looks bigger than stock. So it probably, I could be wrong there, but it looks bigger than stock to me. So you might find that it produces more torque than a stock Z650. Again, not a bad mod to do by any stretch of the imagination. I think that would do well on something like this. It's interesting here. So the first comment on here is, why doesn't the owner just install a new battery? Because he's lying, that's why. Or maybe because the person doesn't have any kind of mechanical ability and they don't really feel comfortable doing it. Maybe. I don't know. A battery doesn't cost very much, to be honest with you. But some people, that's just how they like to sell their bikes. You know, they just sell them as they are. If you sell a bike perfect, with no issues, no problems with it, then that is kind of a good thing for an owner. It feels, or the next owner, the person who's looking to buy the bike off of you, it kind of fills them with a bit more confidence, but it's not a bad thing. If anything, I use that as an excuse to get some money off the bike. Yeah, this is a good point here as well. Make sure that the bike is cold when you go and look at it and you start it up for yourself. That'll really tell you a lot about the bike, especially when it comes to electrical issues and things like that. If it's been cold and it's a cold start, that's the hardest load for the battery to deal with. That's how you can tell if the electrical system is all right. Just, yeah, start the bike cold. So what would I pay for this bike? I mean, if this is in the UK, it doesn't look like it is. Looks like it might be in the United States. But if I was to buy this 2021, I'd say it's probably worth about $4,000. Maybe 4.5, something like that. And the thing is, if that paint job isn't really to your liking, or the mods aren't really to your liking, then that might be a way of getting some money off the bike as well. Say, look, I don't really want any of this. I don't need any of this stuff. This is money that you spent on the bike that I wouldn't have spent on the bike myself. So I think it's worth this. Mods don't add any extra value to a motorcycle. All right. So it's worth what it is worth if it was just stock standard. Yeah, just keep that in mind. Mods don't necessarily mean, in fact, more often than not, don't mean jack when it comes to the actual value of the bike. Oil bubbling in eye hole. I recently added 1 litre of oil to a cold engine. After about 30 minutes, I noticed the oil is bubbling at the top of the eye hole. Is this normal? Now, just off the top of my head, that sounds like you might have too much oil in there. When oil starts frothing and bubbling, that's usually because the amount of oil that's being dumped back into the sump and then the amount of oil that's being picked up creates almost like, not a vortex, but it kind of wants to try and create like milkshake, I suppose. I mean, milk, not specifically milkshake, but it puts air bubbles in the oil, and so it's probably getting picked up like that. But let's see what the comments have said. Yeah, bubbling is usually oil aerating because you've overfilled it. That's funny. What's the level of your dipstick show? As far as I'm aware, motorcycles don't have dipsticks. Maybe some do. I don't know, but yeah, motorcycles have got peepholes now in the inspection windows. The fact that they said they added a litre of oil, that's quite a lot to a motorcycle engine. Most bikes, I mean, the ZZR, to be fair, takes a lot of oil, and the ZH2 takes a lot of oil as well. I think it's about 4 litres or so. So it takes quite a lot. But if you add an extra litre of oil, there's not a lot of space for it to go. Inside a car engine, it's not so bad. There's more space in the sump. So you've got to add like 2, 3, 4, 5 litres of oil in a car engine before it starts having that same kind of effect. So yeah, just take out. Well, I mean, to be fair, I think you've wasted that litre of oil. You got to drop it. If you're going to add oil, you have to drop the oil, the old oil. You might as well drop the old oil before you add in new oil. And then, of course, whilst you're at it, replace the oil filter. Very easy job to do. EU versus US driving styles. When Europeans drive a stick car, we're not taught to rev match, but rather ease out the clutch slowly whilst giving gas at the same time, while US seems to practice rev matching when it comes to motorcycles. Does the same apply, or is everyone all about the rev match? You don't need to rev match. Honestly, a motorcycle will automatically match its revs whenever you're downshifting. It's not really something that you need to worry about unless you're going down too many gears. If you've gone down 2 gears, then it takes a little bit of time for the rear wheel to catch up with the speed of the engine or the speed of the bike, the speed of the road. So that's how you can do things like back-ins and what have you. You go down a couple of gears, you let out the clutch, and it kind of feels like you're doing a rear wheel skid. So, no, you don't need to rev match. Honestly, it's one of those techniques that is useful when it comes to track riding, and if you're going through the twisties on roads and you're going quite quick, rev matching can be helpful in that instance as well. But if you're just chilling, if you're riding, just cruising about, you don't have to worry about rev matching. But if you want to learn it, we've got a video about that as well, so definitely go and check that one out. Is this a good deal? I'm torn between a 05 Gixxer 600 or 05 600RR. The 600RR was 4k miles as shown, says he got it in a trade and is selling for family reasons. Rough conditions, cosmetically. Of course, mechanically, I'm honestly not sure. He says he doesn't ride it, which definitely seems like it is. Have to wait till Sunday for it. My God, get your grammar right, all right? If you're gonna ask for help from people, please get the questions right, the actual wording, for God's sake. The Gixxer has 11k miles and looks good cosmetically, and seller rides it when weather is good. Has had all its fluids changed this season. I can show it for it today. Both the same price, 4,500. I mean, 4,000 miles for a 600RR? That's not a lot, man. Not a lot at all. And the fact in 4,000 miles and it's in rough cosmetic condition. I mean, if he doesn't ride it, then that's a bit of a red flag. And to be honest with you, that's actually a really good way that you can get some money off the bike. So I imagine this is a 600RR here. Yeah, 4,000 miles. Seems to look alright though. So I wonder if this CBR 600RR has been kind of dropped and it's been resprayed, maybe. Doesn't look like it's been looked after all that well, to be honest with you. But to be honest, I think it would probably clean up alright. And because of its condition, get some money off. That Yoshimura exhaust is worth money as well on its own. That might be worth maybe $200 or so. I don't know how much exhausts are in the United States, but that would still clean up all right. But it's probably worth closer to maybe $3,000 rather than $4,500. Now, of course, if you want a bit of peace of mind, well, this Gixxer might be the better way forward. Yeah, it does look in pretty good nick, doesn't it? But again, it's got loads of like mods and paintwork done to it. I don't know if I like those yellow bits either, to be honest with you. But if you're into that, then yeah, good. And you know that it's had its fluids changed. I mean, of course, check that yourself. So if you have a look in the oil window, check that the oil is kind of like a nice clear color. It doesn't have to be orange or amber. It can be red as well in some instances, but just make sure it's not like black or really dark brown. If it is, then it probably is due for a change sooner rather than later. But yeah, Gixxer, if you want to pay the full 4,500, Gixxer is a good shot, but you could snipe at this for maybe 2.5, 3 grand. So don't be afraid to look at this if you're looking for a decent deal, but of course, make sure it all works first. Doing fluid changes is fairly straightforward, fairly easy, so, but yeah, if you want peace of mind, it's got to be the Gixxer, isn't it? But you know me, I'm going to vouch for the 600RR because I absolutely love that bike. Fantastic. It is an awesome bike. All right, last one for today. Sad story about having to sell a motorcycle. My older brother and current active duty army bro recently had a stroke and found out that he has a hole in his heart. Jesus Christ. He's having surgery to fix the hole next week, but after the stroke he has some neuro damage and can't maintain balance. He's been riding and moto camping on a kick-ass Triumph Tiger 1200, but is selling it now, and it makes me sad. I would buy it, but I live in Texas and also don't have all the cash on hand. I have an older brother and younger brother. 2 of us ride, and now it's down to just 1. My younger brother probably would ride, but in his late 30s, he is fighting stage 4 metastatic melanoma that has spread to his spine and organs. I am the least health conscious, at least. Yeah, that's really sad, man. I mean, I wouldn't give up hope. Something like a stroke, if he's a fairly young guy, can probably recover close to 100%. He might not be 100% as he was before, but in terms of having to retrain himself to balance and things like that, he might be all right in a few years' time. So he might be able to get back on a bike again later on. So yeah, don't give up hope in that regard. But that is really sad. I'd be tempted to just keep the bikes in the family, just as, you know, because if it's something that you guys like to do together and it's something that you really enjoyed, then keeping the bikes as like a memento to remind you guys of those experiences might be a good idea. But I mean, of course, I imagine this is in the United States, Texas, so if things like medical bills are a concern, then maybe selling the bikes would be the best in terms of getting your brothers up and at it again, you know, try and get them as healthy as possible. But yeah, that's really sad, man. I'm sorry to hear that. I hope that everything kind of gets better for them and yourself, of course, and I just hope one day you guys can get back on your bikes again. Maybe it's a case of taking your brother as pillion or something like that on the back of your bike. That might be a way to also kind of experience similar kind of thing like you did before. I know it's not going to be exactly the same, but it might be a way to just keep that motivation high, keep that spirit high. But yeah, really sorry to hear that, and I hope that everything gets sorted and they both recover. Yeah, I hope both of them get well. All right, so good luck to you, good luck to your family. Sending out my love to you guys. And yeah, I'm sure that everyone here in our little community will also be sending their love to you as well. But anyway, everyone, I think that's going to do it for today. Yeah, we ended on a bit of a sad one today, unfortunately, but I hope everything goes well for this person, and I hope that some of the questions that we've answered today helped you guys out as well. But if you have any further questions, by all means, send me an email. Message me on Instagram and Facebook. I do have to apologize. My wife has been through surgery recently, so I've been looking after her, so I haven't had time yet to get through every message that has been sent to me, but I will get around to it at some point or other. And if I don't get around to responding to you in the comments, I'm sure that our little community here will be more than happy to help you out anyway with any of your questions and what have you. But as always, go ahead, leave that like, hit that subscribe button and the notification bell as well if you're new and you don't want to miss any more of our videos going forward. And we'll catch you all in the next video. Everyone take care, ride safe, have a fantastic weekend.